Hey, what's going on, guys? Pete with Auto Repair Tips. We are working on an '04 Cadillac CTS. The customer brought it to a shop and it failed safety inspection. They said it needed a left side motor mount, rear pads, and rotors. So I'm gonna take it for a test drive and see how it feels. Let's see what we have going on. I feel a little bit of the engine jumping. Stick it in reverse. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but there's definitely something on the right front making a bunch of noise. Let's check that out too. I can hear the brakes grinding a little bit. All right, let's get this thing in the shop and let's see what we got. Guys, if you're a motorhead like me and you love working on your own cars, you found the right channel. Consider subscribing and don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. All right, I'm gonna start the car and put it in gear and I'll power brake it and let's see if we can see that engine jumping up and down. I have it in drive right now. All right, you can definitely see the left side is jumping up and down. Let's put it in reverse and let's check the right side. It's pretty tight. So definitely got a bad motor mount. Let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air and see what we got. Also heard the right front suspension. It was making a ton of noise. So when I get it up, we're going to check the lower control arms on that. You may have some bad lower control arms too, or at least on one side. Tell you, I have had a run on lower control arms lately. It seems like every car that's come in here, the lower bushings have been gone. All right, let's take a look up in here. This is where I saw the lower control arm jumping at, right here, going back and forth this way. We can get the old pry bar out and let's take a look and see what we got. See, can I move it back and forth? The bushing in there is gone. Not sure if you can see, but right up inside here, the bushing on that lower control arm is gone. That's why it's jumping around so much. And every time I hit it in reverse, the front half of this control arm is twisting. Looks like this side is probably going too. Let's get the pry bar on this side. Let's take a look and see how it moves. Yeah, there's nothing there. Those bushings are gone. They're toast. I need to call them about that. That's not even on the list. And technically that fails state inspection too. All right, let's go ahead and get this wheel off. Let's see what the brakes look like. I can already see the rotors just looking through the rim there. They're grooved out. There's toast. There's nothing left in them rotors. If you look right here at the rotors, There 8 slam up. There's not even enough to turn if you wanted to turn the rotors. You know, nowadays though, rotors are so cheap, it's just better off to replace them than it is to turn them. Looking at the pads, they don't look too bad. They look got to have some meat left on it. Most likely, they changed pads and never changed rotors in the past, so that's why those pads are probably grooved out. Let's go ahead and get this caliper off. Let's take a look and see what we got. All right, screwdriver, power off the caliper. We'll just set it over here. We don't mess up the brake line. Checking the slide pins out. They're loose, but you can tell they need grease and they're dry. You can feel it. So the pads have plenty of meat left on them, but if you look, you can see there's grooves all the way across here. Make sure when you go back with the caliper bolts, you use a Loctite. Use the blue, that's a medium strength. That's all you're gonna need on these. Damn, these bitches are in here. Note that they're different sizes, so make sure when you don't get confused when you're putting them back. There's a T27, you need to take it out. That holds the rotor on. Usually you gotta use an impact driver or a screwdriver. So looking at the pads, they pass state inspection, and the rotors have plenty of meat on them also. They pass state inspection. But I called the customer and asked him, and he said he was hearing noises back here, and I told him this is what the noise was. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and replace them. Other than that, they did pass state inspection. It should not have failed for that. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna press the piston in. And this is the caliper tool that I use right here. This is how it goes together. There's a half moon sleeve that goes on the back side, and this goes up against the piston. And you screw it out till it starts to hit. Once it hits, you're supposed to put a wrench here, but a lot of times I can hold it with my fingers while it turns. Let's try and get you a better view of what I'm doing, y'all. So this is your setup. When you're pressing this cylinder in here, a lot of times it'll pee out brake fluid through the master cylinder. You know, that's one way to tell if your brakes are getting low. If you don't have any brake fluid leaks and you look at your master cylinder and you can see that the fluid's getting lower and lower, you know that your brakes are getting low somewhere. And I don't see anything coming out of the master cylinder. One thing to keep in mind, when you're pushing that piston in, it should go in smoothly. There should be no resistance at all. If you do have resistance, you need to check and see why. The new rotor is going to come with a coating on it. Make sure you clean it off. Just keeps it from rusting. Because you know it's got to travel all the way across the ocean to get here. Also keep your greasy hands off it. Once you clean it off, you don't want to put your greasy hands back on it. Use your palm. Pick it up, move it, turn it, whatever you got to do. Get your air hose if you got one. Let's go back with the T27. Get in there. All right, it looks like these brakes came with a new hardware kit, so make sure you use it. We go back with new grease on the slides. It only takes a little bit. You don't need to go crazy with it. A good little coating on it, just like that. Slide it back in. Pop that one out, wipe it down, put a little coat on it. Slide her back in. Anytime you do new brakes, always grease your slide pins. This way later on, the next time you do your brakes, you don't have any problems getting them out. Let's go ahead and get the bracket back on. Remember, the bolts are different sizes. Short one at the bottom, long one at the top. I already put the Loctite on it. Let's get the new hardware kit on. Make sure when you put the pads on, go back with just a little bit of grease. Hey, these things are a pain in the ass. Make sure before you put your caliper back on there, if you did happen to get some grease on it, get it cleaned off. Next thing you do is get your caliper, and we're going to put it on. On a side note, remember, anytime you do brakes, the first time you get in the car, you need to pump up your brakes, because if you don't, you're going to put it in gear and you're going to go somewhere and you're going to run into something. Yeah, you're going to be a wiener head, ain't you? What if I can get on it? Oh yeah, that'll work. If that caliper bolt starts spinning on you, there's usually a nut on the back side. You can get a wrench on it and hold it. Sometimes you get lucky and they don't spin. All right guys, this side is done. We're gonna rinse and repeat for the right side of the car. Once I get that done, we'll get it up in the air and we'll check that motor mount and see what it takes to get it off. Catch you in a minute. This is why we have all this noise. Because this man is over here cutting out a rocker panel that's rusted slam up and interrupting my video, but that's all right. Noise is money, right? If there's no noise, there's no money being made. All right, back to my quiet side of the shop. That motor mount's held on with two 21 millimeter nuts, one from the top, one from the bottom. Bottom one's pretty simple to get to. Top one is just gonna be, I broke it loose with a wrench and then I just got my socket on it and just slowly turn it. I got the dead arm on it, so once we get it out, I'm gonna try to hopefully jack it up enough on this one side to scoot that mount out. I may have to loosen up the other mount. One thing about this shop here, we're always doing something fun. Putting in rockers, working on old cars. Doesn't matter, we do it all here. Most of the guys have been here for a long time. That guy I was just talking to over there, he's been here 46 years. The painter, he's the one, I think earlier in the videos y'all saw, he can't hear and he can't talk. And he's been with me over 25 years probably. Matter of fact, when he was a little kid, he learned his career here. Then he left and came back. I hope this works. I don't want to have to loosen the other mount up. That's one nut. Who you calling a nut? That was the easy one there. Let's see if we can get it up. Sometimes you get lucky. Doing some of this, be careful. Last thing you want to do is smash your finger. Nope. It's gonna be just short. All right. Let's try it again. Maybe get on here. Ah, so close. I couldn't get it high enough. He's killing me with all that noise today. All right, guys, there was so much noise earlier. I'm going to give you a recap of what went down. The nut on this lower mount and this lower mount I removed. And I started off with my dead arm on the oil pan. I tried jacking it up that way to get that mount out without removing the bracket. It didn't work. It was a bust. Plus, the dead arm was kind of weak. It didn't work correctly. I wasn't happy with that. So I went and got my transmission jack and we hooked it on with a 4x4 on top, stuck it on the oil pan. And then I had to remove the 3 bolts that held the bracket on. Got those bolts out of the way. That engine came up just fine. Once I got the bracket out, the mount came out. We went in with a new mount and the bracket, bolted it all back up, and we're good to go. All right, guys, this job is done. Just remember, if you're doing this at home and you can't safely jack that engine up, don't do it at all. Go pay somebody else to do it. It's not worth losing a finger over. Guys, that's it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Catch you later.